Welcome to season 4 of Outstanding Women Leaders, Witty and Wise Conversations. I'm your host, Katie L. Eads, founder and chief owl at Outstanding Women Leaders, Owl Professional Coaching and Podcast, an organization dedicated to empowering women in leadership, relationships, and life. Owl is on a mission to host 100 million witty and wise conversations that inspire you, disrupt the way leaders think, and stir your soul into action. That inspiration begins with a set of rules to guide our conversation today. Number 1, nobody gets to be wrong. Number 2, nobody gets to be right. And number 3, everybody gets to be vulnerable. My favorite is number 4, everything is included. If your dog barks, we don't care. We do not edit here. This conversation is exactly what it needs to be in this moment in time. We've asked our guests to join us via video to allow us to create authentic connection. Eyes are the window to the soul. You will be seen here. You will be heard. There is space for you. When this conversation comes to a close, I will ask our guest 3 questions. If you've tuned in before, you know what they are. And if you haven't, you don't want to miss them. Enough about me. Today, I'm excited to welcome Outstanding Women Leader, Shannan Hale. She is an inspirational woman, speaker, and hype coach for women who are passionate about chasing their dreams and achieving their goals. The founder of the Thrive and Shine community, a platform for women to come together and share their stories of success, challenge each other to grow, and create meaningful connections. Shanna knows her purpose and is here to help others find their gifts and heal from past experiences. She is truly passionate about taking care of herself, both physically, emotionally, and spiritually, all while having as much fun as possible through the process. Of course, she's a 5-1 human design as well, because we know how to take care of ourselves, and more importantly, we know how to have fun.
Yes.
Welcome. Shannan, storytelling is your jam, and I am dying to hear your full story because I don't know it yet. Where do
Oh,
we
yes.
start?
Where do I start? Gosh. Okay, I'm going to give you all the short and skinny of my story. So this year I had just stepped into like really owning my story and knowing that my story has this purpose and passion. And because before I've always hidden my story, right? Because I always wanted to show up as somebody that, I just wanted to hide all the imperfections of myself. So my story is based around like racial identity. I was, born to a white mother and an African-American father. And I was born into the projects of New Jersey, like literally brought home to the projects of New Jersey, where there was, is predominantly Black. And then my mom decided to move me on her own by herself in the middle of the night because she's a strong woman leader. And she was like, I'm not going to, take this anymore and have somebody who's not going to, provide and protect and all of that. And so in the middle of the night, she got on a Greyhound bus with 2 trash bags, me on my hip at 2 years old, and she brought us to Texas to a trailer community. So I went from like big city, living in the projects of New Jersey, to now I'm in a small town outside of the Dallas-Fort Worth area where the KKK literally meets in the next town over, and in a predominantly white trailer community. And that story has held a lot of shame, because of not, I didn't end up knowing my father. He was never in my life for the many years that I was raised in that small town. My mom ended up marrying my stepfather, a white man. And, they did the best they could raising me, but I really hid that part of me. Because I am white passing and I can pass, even though people would sometimes be like, something's up, especially after the summertime. I get a little darker, and my hair, I never knew how to fix it, and it would just be wild and crazy. And so people would ask me questions, but I would hide that. I would find a way to deter them. And so, yeah, I hid that story of my dad being Black. And I hid that until I was 25 years old, until I couldn't take it anymore because I was choosing, a very unhealthy lifestyle, partying and doing all the things. And I realized, and I had a lot of anxiety. There's a lot of mental health issues run in my family already. But I already could tell like just parts of me that I just wasn't really loving, obviously, because I was choosing this unhealthy lifestyle. And I had pushed down the story of my father and, just the way that my parents kind of raised me, and they were addicts, or they chose to have a crazy lifestyle on the weekends, and the kind of like not feeling like I was, seen and heard my whole life in my own home, at school, and who I was. So um, yeah, I'm just really trying to come out this year about like how important it is for your story to be told, because I suppressed mine for so long and locked it up so far and so deep, that it has taken many years for me to heal from that. And that's another part of my story, and the theme that I'm talking about this year is like about healing. Like, what does healing look like? What are the different modalities that you can choose to heal? There's so many, right? There's like talk therapy, which for me doesn't necessarily work as much anymore. It did in the past, and there's like this energy healing, and there's all different, these fun, cool things that you can choose from to help you heal. And there's people out there who want to guide and support you. So yeah, this year is just, my story is just about like sharing, getting other women to share and let their story be seen and heard, because we all deserve to be seen and heard. And that's where we get our power from, us from our story, right? I do believe that we chose these stories, or we chose this life. And then I want to share my story, and I want to make a difference. And I want people to be able to share their story too, and just to get it out, and not to feel the shame and guilt and all these heavy emotions that we feel, because we have these stories that we don't want people to know because we're afraid they might think a certain way about us.
Yeah, that really resonates, being worried about how other people receive it.
Yeah.
Also, a fun story is that right before we hopped on this podcast, I just shared my friend's story who's so similar to yours. Um, yeah, that's so funny. Not a mom is Peruvian though, instead of Black father, but
Yeah.
feeling that like white passing and walking that racial line, and
Yeah.
not really like knowing where you fit in.
Yep.
I have
Yep.
to know, where in Jersey?
So I was born in Hackensack, New Jersey.
Get out of here. I moved here from Jersey City and I lived in Hoboken before that.
Okay, so that's where all my family's from. Like yeah, exactly. So like Parsippany, I think, yeah, yeah, all my family's up still in that area. So that's
Mhm.
so funny. There's a connection. It was just,
Oh, of course there is, because
yeah.
when I lived in Hoboken and Jersey City, I was running a mentoring program where I was supporting the kids in the Hoboken Housing Authority in the projects.
Oh
And
my
can I
gosh.
tell you, Shannon, that they had an Instagram page. So, and this was like, I moved there in 2015. And so I'm looking to tag them in an Instagram post. And I realized that the Instagram was owned by the community, not by the housing authority, because it was called Projects, Hoboken Projects, not even calling it the HHA, so they must have come in and finally taken over the Instagram, because it changed with a few years. But
Wow. I'm
yeah,
really interested in going back and kind of seeing the projects of where I was, raised, and yeah, kind of getting more into that a little bit of like the inner city kids and all of that. And I know
yeah.
you have some experience with
I got to
that.
introduce you to that person I was mentioning as well, because that same mom had that same trash bag, only it was a suitcase and it was a passport, and it was to Peru to leave the dad. So I feel like there needs to be a conversation
Oh, I
there.
love it.
I love that I get to bring you guys together. So your story, tell me more about, this makes sense to me why you were telling me about my curls and how you could help me. Tell me more about, like, what is that experience, racial identity wise? And do even just with your dad, do you talk to your dad? Have you seen him? Love to know a little more.
Yeah. So at 25, when I decided that I needed to like connect with my father and I wanted to find him and pursue him, I always my whole life wanted to pursue him, but I was so scared to. First of all, my mom told me at a young age, at 7 years old, when my stepfather adopted me, they had to go try to find him before you get adopted by somebody else. You have to, state of Texas law requires that they, get a hold of the birth father. And I feel like that law is all over the US. But they tried to find my father and they couldn't find him. So my parents had to sit me down and they had to tell me that they can't find my father. And unfortunately, he was a heroin addict, and he, all these things that he did and why my mom left. And he probably is not even alive. And so at a very young age, I imagined my father under this bridge, just sad, scared, alone, addicted to drugs. And it really, I think my mom might have told me a little too much at a young age, but it really like was a permanent thing in my head of like, wow, my father could not be alive, or he's just, on drugs. And, there's a lot of feelings, because I was like, how could a man not love me because he chose drugs over me? But I also like yearned for my dad. So I always just yearned for this man who I didn't know was alive or not. So by the time I was 25, I reached out, I told my mom I was really struggling, with the life choices I was making. And I told her I need to find my father. Could you give me any kind of information about him? And we had never spoke about him ever since that day when I was 7, that they told me all that information. I hid it down and I never wanted to talk about it again. 25, I go to my mom and I'm like, I really want to reach out to him or find somebody, maybe in the family that knows him if he's not alive or whatever. So I was able to find him within a week, and we connected, and it was cool, right? But ended up not kind of working out. We never really connected. And then he ended up passing away from cancer. And I remember when I got that call, and I was just really devastated, and I regretted not going to see him. But it was like, why didn't he come and see me? Like, why didn't he make the effort over this many years that we had been in contact? And so, whenever I found out he passed, I took a day to myself and just, thanked God, universe, creator, for me, for him bringing me my life. And that, and I finally closed that part of my life. I was like, cool, now I don't have to worry about having to go see him, or do I need to fly out there? Because I was a single mom at the time as well. So yeah, closed that part of my life. But I still started to open up about like telling people I'm mixed race. I've been hiding it, even telling my best friends who I hid that from. And they were like, oh girl, we already kind of knew. But like, that's how much I hid
It's
it.
like coming out of the gay closet. Like, we kind of already knew.
Exactly what I say. It was like coming out of the closet. That's why I love like gay people and their stories. And that's why I had gay best friends for my whole life, because I understood their struggle. It was exactly like that, of coming out of the closet and starting to share my story and starting to feel the weight coming off my shoulders. Right. So that's kind of like my story of my father. And then the story gets even more Jerry Springer, because I end up taking an ancestry DNA test 3 years ago. Me and my husband were like, let's take this test so that we can save up our money and go to these countries that we're from. And I knew I was African American, right? And he's white as ever. So we knew we were going to go to Europe. But I was super excited about that. And we've got the freaking results in, and it told me that 99% chance of there was a parent-child relationship on this DNA. So long story short, I ended up having a different father. And great. A really cool story is that I ended up finding him really quickly on Facebook through the name on the ancestry DNA, talking to my mom. She was like, anything's possible. Yeah, he could be your father. That's a whole nother episode. We ended up connecting, and really quick, he ended up coming to see me within a couple of weeks, and really beautiful story, but kind of also another, like, haven't really talked to him, and but it's lately in the past year, and he's struggling, and it's just one of those things where it's like, I know who I am. I have so much self-love for myself now. And I know I don't need to, there's no hole in my soul anymore to like find this man, because I ended up really finding my biological father and meeting him. But then I'm also like, there's this disconnect with us now over the past year, but I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it. 'Cause I'm like, I know who I am, and I know what I bring to the table. And if somebody maybe doesn't want to talk to me because whatever, maybe I make them feel a certain way, or they can't handle that or whatever, it's like, it's not me. And so I've been able to release that, but it's been beautiful. I've got to meet my actual real father, and we'll just see what happens. I'm leaving it all up in his court now, but I've released all attachments. So.
And is your real father African American?
Yeah, he is.
Yeah.
He's very much more light skinned. It all makes more sense. I was shown a very, and I feel like I can say this, a very Eddie Murphy, Black father when I was 7 years old. And then my biological father now is a light skin. He's actually the lightest skin out of his whole family too. But
like, yes, a Will Smith. I need a celebrity.
Yes, can we just do that? Yes, like a Will, or like what's Rashida Jones's Quincy Jones or something like that coloring or whatever. So yeah.
All right. Wow. Like, that story had so many twists and turns. I also love that you buried the lead about the ancestry and the dairy, and the way you shared that story of, you have your own Jerry Springer story. I've been to a Jerry Springer taping because it was in Chicago. Yeah, that's what you do when you're 21 too. Absolutely awful. I don't recommend it. I wanted to stab my eyes out. Amazing story. And thank you for sharing it. I love that you talked about having all the gay friends and feeling that you identified with them. So I also have a story that was just changed for me. My dad came out of the closet as a gay man when my mom passed away. But he told my mom before they got married, like, they were best friends. They loved each other. Clearly they were lovers at one point. Here I am, only child. So I like to tell people it happened once. I've had that my whole childhood. So, there's a joke there, but all of my friends, I had a club when I was a kid. I charged $2 to join, 50 cents a month to be a part of it.
Oh my God.
Oh, you did too? I love it. Most of those people are gay now. And my college roommate, gay, a woman grew up across the street from me that I was friends with, gay. And then I just find that I attract so many, you know how we are attracting people. 5-1 group, several women in there also. And I just realized like I didn't have to know as a child that my aunt's also gay, so my dad's sister. So, and I knew that was like no one talked, hid, no one was hiding gayness. Just dad. And dad also, like he was faithful to my mother. He loved her very much. He believed that she was his soulmate. I guess today the kids would call him bisexual, maybe. Like dad doesn't identify that way. He very much identifies as a gay man who just fell in love with a woman. Oopsies. Kind of like, you're right. So, and it was fun to connect into the Sage Center, which is an elderly LGBTQ place in New York City where he got to, meet gay men for the first time. So now I'm afraid
to about it now openly, like you and your father.
Oh, I mean, my dad shared. Yes.
He told you like the day, like after your mom passed away.
He wanted to tell me after mom passed away, and I knew that he wanted to tell me because every kid finds their dad's porn collection. They just expect it to look different, is what I joke about. And I did not want to. I wanted to not have that. And so at the 1-year anniversary, I went home to scatter her ashes. And he told me in the car, but I already sort of knew because a friend that I introduced him to, who I knew was a gay man, right when mom died, that became his friend as well, happened to be in New York that week before I flew out. And the first thing I said to him when he sat down, I was like, "So is my dad gay?" And us 5-1s, like you just know this stuff. And like that hole that you talked about, it's like you knew there was something. And the story that I wrote was actually much worse than the reality of what my parents, the secret they had. The story I wrote that my mom was not happy, that, they weren't, like, it was not the right story.
Right.
But I knew there was something that, and so it did feel a little bit like my whole childhood was a lie.
Yeah.
Very much like you.
Yes.
And and then people ask like, "Well, how are you doing with your dad's gay?" And I'm like, I don't think you understand. Like that part's actually not a big deal. What it does bring up for me is the lying.
Yeah.
And that really got to the root of what's so hard for me is the truth. Like my defined head is the gate of truth. And so the truth is that, anytime when I got divorced and I was going through literally having a mental breakdown, why didn't you guys think to tell me then? Might have been a good plan. Hey, so you're divorced now. Let's talk about our marriage.
Right. Yeah.
Instead, they shared their love letters that they wrote to each other that were originally friends. And then they also got engaged because, back then you wrote letters. They lived in different states at the time. Never thought in the middle of telling me their love story, right? They wrote their love story for me. You got to start out as friends. You got to start out as friends. Never bothered to say, and by the way, you tell each other everything. And this is what your dad did. He told me because my mom asked my dad about dating. Those are our best friends. And my dad said, "I'm so sorry. I forgot to tell you I'm gay." And she said, "I don't care." That's how dad tells the story. And he's like, "Well, let me sleep on it." And I'm like, that does make sense. I believe that. He's an emotional authority. And so is my mom. So it makes sense. He rode his wave and like, mom had already made up her mind that she wanted to, she be with this man. And at 28, being a baby boomer, my mom probably thought she was, this was her best shot.
Yeah.
I don't know if she felt that way when she died. No, I'm kidding.
Right.
But yeah, it's a lot to be said for hiding stories, whether we've chosen to hide them, other people have chosen to hide them for us. It is, stories do empower, and the truth of the stories was actually much more empowering for me. My goodness, how much more empowering for you as well to have a truth of a story and to be able to see both of them.
Yeah, exactly. And it's been a wave, of like the emotions towards my mom about this,
Of course.
the anger, all the emotions coming up for that. And like, how do I work through this with my mom of her not telling me, my whole life? And did she really not know? And so,
yeah, well, she could die and then you can work it out with her like I do, where I'm like, "Come on, mom."
I know, I was gonna say, like, how have you worked it out with your mom? Like, it's different, right? Like, it's just people say just like forgive or let it go or whatever. But I mean, yeah, like with you not really actually having that dialogue, like,
I didn't really have anything to work out with her. I felt like I more had like a deeper understanding of who she
mm,
was and who she, what their marriage was.
yeah.
Um,
Oh, I love that. Exactly. Even with my mom too, I've come to that. It's like I just have a deeper understanding of who she was then and like what the struggles she had been through her whole life, being sexually molested by her father and then her stepfather, and the things that she had to go through, and her mother being a schizophrenia. And I'm like, I just, yeah, like you said, a deeper understanding of her and what, you know what I mean? I don't think that she meant to hide it from me or she really didn't know. It's just deeper understanding of who she is, right? Of like,
yeah.
yeah.
I imagine too for my mom that that was something that she didn't want to share of her story. And I think that's the even the deeper understanding of this is why
Mhm.
it's so important that women like us share ours so
Yeah.
that we break that generation of not feeling that we can tell people the truth.
Right.
Because her
Because they
truth
can't.
was
Yeah.
fine. Her truth was that my dad and her very much loved each other. And
Right.
they
It's
did
so
model,
beautiful.
yeah, the
Yeah.
relationship that they modeled, though, was based on a lie for me. It wasn't based on a lie for them.
Yeah.
And when I got divorced,
Mm.
I didn't want to be his parents.
Mm.
And, one of the events of that was his dad calling his mom a cunt at the dinner table. My family would have never done that. My parents respected each other.
Right.
They just did not tell me the truth.
Yeah.
Mm.
Mm. But we are here to make a
We are
change.
here. And I
So
think we've
well, we're
landed
here.
on Shannon. What is your superpower? I think you know what it is now.
Did you see something I didn't or what? Like, I mean, I think my superpower is part of like connecting with people and sharing my
Through
story.
your story.
Yeah, through my story. That is my superpower. It's like, yeah, it's like really changing people's lives and making a difference and like really getting people to share that the deepest part of themselves and making that like a normal thing. Like, why can't we just, like, why do we have to have all these surface level conversations? I love those too. But it's like, why can't we like share from our deepest inner selves? And so, like, I think that's my superpower. It's like getting people to share that story and getting that out of your body so that you can release it, so that you can be set free. I think there's like a cliche saying like the truth will set you free. And I
But
think,
first, it'll piss you off. That's a glorious
but
saying. But
that's good. Okay, that's good. Yes. So it's true. It's true, but yeah, still piss you off and yeah, leave you angry and disoriented for a bit. But yes, exactly.
yeah. Yeah. Well, you can close a cycle and you can accept truth. That's where it gets shady, right? Like here's his truth and her truth and no, no, no. Like there's the truth and that sets you free.
I love that. You're always so insightful. You always take it to the next level. I love you for
I'm
that.
only as good as the people that give me content to work with, Shannon, and that would be you. What's your purpose?
Um, I know deeply inside of me, my purpose is to, help the world make an impact and help them to heal, spirit, I think it's part of my tagline too of like helping people to heal spiritually, emotionally, and physically, and doing it while having fun. Like, can't we have fun while we're going through this ickiness? Do you know what I mean?
Stop
Like,
taking life so seriously, people.
seriously,
we most
God, I just,
we both must have that channel filled in. And we're
yes.
here to bring that to the world.
Right, exactly. Because it doesn't have to be all weird. Like I remember when I went to a therapist when I was younger, and it felt so weird and like very what do you call it, sterile, and just like this feel like why can't we have fun when we talk about our stories or even laugh about them and so I think that I bring that element, and that's what I want to always continue to tell people that my purpose is to help impact people and to heal, and that's through having as much fun as possible. I want to do like an adult summer camp this summer that does have a component of like human design and healing and all that, but we're also having fun and riding bikes and doing these fun summer camp stuff that we did when we were kids and singing kumbaya around a campfire. But it's like, how can we have fun and heal and be ourselves all in the same, same
Mm-hmm.
breath? So.
Well, if it's historical, it's hysterical, or at least it can be. When people talk about like if history doesn't piss you off, you're reading it wrong. I have a degree in history, so if history pisses you off, you haven't left it where it belongs, which is in the past.
Oh,
Our history, we have it to learn so we don't repeat, but then you can also see the humor and how stupid humans are that we keep repeating it.
right? Oh my gosh, what's that show that was like Drunk History?
Drunk history. Yeah.
I don't know why I just thought about that, but I'm like, that's the only history show I used to watch because they made it
I
fun.
like to think my class was like that. I had Eid stock and speak Eadsy. So we'd eat stock, we made protest signs, we drank Tang, we had fondue, we did all the things that you do of the culture and you listen to their music. And this is how we learn about culture and like what's happening at these times. What are the struggles? What are people talking about?
Right.
Um, and yeah, you share so beautifully with the world, like how to heal. When we laugh, dopamine releases. So I love that you bring in the fun activities. I like to make the session where we're healing also funny.
Absolutely.
When we're able to, laughter is the chatter of the soul. And when our soul is speaking, our soul isn't wounded, we are.
Mm,
Because our soul remembers who we are. Our soul knows. Our soul doesn't have expectations or personal attachment. Our soul knows that we're here with a purpose
yeah, and our soul wants us to share and do it in our own creative way, and
and
that's what
thrive and shine.
shine
And how do
exactly.
how do they find your Thrive and Shine group to join?
Yeah, it's on Facebook group. You can literally just Google search Thrive and Shine Network in Facebook. And there's a group. And then you just enter your little information and I'll accept you in. We have 3,500 women in there. And I want to tell you that like I can brag about them because I've done a lot of like we've done masterminds and a lot of connection calls with people. And it's just a really good group of like heart-centered women who do have a purpose and a dream and big goals, small goals, or they just want to support people. But it is just very heart centered, and I'm really proud of what I've built and the women that have come into that space. So
Mm. On that note, what's next for you?
what's next for me? Well, I'm always thinking about the most, I'm always visualizing and I see the big ideas and all of that. So this year, I really want to focus on my membership program and how I can add more value to my community. I also want to be speaking more on stages about my story. And so, yeah, I'm going to be working on sharing my story more in different people's networks and communities and building this membership program and then just trying to be as present with my family as I can. So
Mm.
that's the plan.
I love what's next. I look forward to helping you add value in the community. I see future collabs. You didn't mention that, but I'm going to go ahead and put that on your list of things that includes what's
Yes,
next for you.
exactly, girl. Thank you. Yes,
Thank you so
exactly.
much, Shannon. We will have your group linked in this as well. Now I know how to find it so I can join it. I always give my guests the last word. So whatever you'd like to leave our listeners with today.
Oh, what do I want to leave them with? Yeah, I think it's going to be about sharing your story and sharing who you are and what you are. And it doesn't matter the capacity of where you share or how you share, whether it's through a one-on-one conversation with your therapist or somebody with a girlfriend with a coffee shop or whatever that looks like. Or maybe you have a big dream and goal like myself of like sharing your story on stages, but just take a little action. It's like take some action, share your story. Like I'm telling you, when you can share and release that and start like really practicing and getting it out of your system, it does hell of a good job on your nervous system and your body internally, and you physically and emotionally and spiritually. So I just want to encourage people to please share your story in whatever capacity that is. Like my story is about racial identity, but I know that other people's stories carry that same heavy weight and that emotion of shame, guilt, abandonment, or whatever it is. Just start sharing your story in whatever capacity feels good for you, but do yourself a favor and start sharing.